It happened on a Tuesday, not with a crash or a siren, but with a simple 403 error code. A small startup in Eastern Europe, one that had spent 18 months building a sophisticated diagnostic tool for radiologists, suddenly found their API access revoked. No explanation, no human to call, just a cold, automated notification that their geographic region was no longer supported by the provider. In an instant, their product wasn't just broken, it was lobotomized. Their brain lived in a data center in Iowa, owned by a corporation that had just changed its mind about who gets to think. We've become remarkably comfortable with this arrangement. We build these complex, intelligent systems on top of proprietary models like GPT-5 or Claude, treating them like a public utility, as reliable as the power grid or the water main. But there's a fundamental difference. If your power goes out, it's usually a technical failure. When your AI model disappears or changes, it's often a business decision. We're currently experiencing the most significant technological gold rush in human history, but almost everyone is building their mine on rented land. And the landlords are starting to look at the lease agreements with a very sharp pen. This dependency isn't just a risk of total shutdown, it's a slow erosion of agency. When you rely on a hyperscaler, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, you aren't just buying compute, you're buying their version of logic. And that logic is subject to their whims, their pricing tiers, and their regulatory fears. It raises a question most builders are too busy to ask. What happens when the easy button becomes a collar? Because as it turns out, the path to true independence requires us to look at the messy, complex, and surprisingly robust world of the open source AI stack. When we talk about hyperscalers, we're talking about the gatekeepers of the modern era. They've built an incredible user experience. You send a string of text to an endpoint, and you get back a response that sounds like it was written by a Rhodes Scholar. It's intoxicatingly simple, but this simplicity masks a massive architectural vulnerability. Every time your application thinks, it has to ask for permission. This creates what we might call the intelligence tax. In the early days of a startup, this tax is negligible, but as you scale, that per token cost begins to eat your margins. You're essentially paying a royalty on every thought your software has. And unlike traditional SaaS, where costs tend to stabilize as you optimize, AI costs are dictated by the provider. If they decide to deprecate the model you spent 6 months prompt engineering, or if they decide your use case is suddenly high risk, you're back to square one. But it's more than just money. It's about the drift. If you've ever noticed your favorite AI tool suddenly getting dumber or more preachy over the weekend, you've experienced model drift. The provider updated the weights or added new safety filters without telling you. For a builder, this is a nightmare. Your code didn't change, but your output did. We're building on a foundation of shifting sand, which is why the conversation is moving towards sovereign AI. The idea that a company's intelligence should be as much a part of its owned assets as its code base or its customer list. But to own the intelligence, you have to own the stack. So, what does an open source AI stack actually look like? It's not just one piece of software. It's a tiered cake of technologies that need to talk to each other. At the bottom, you have the foundation model. This is your Llama 3, your Mistral, or your Falcon. These are the weights, the pre-trained brain that understands language. For years, the gap between these open models and the closed ones like GPT-4 was a chasm. Today, it's a crack. For 90% of commercial applications, an open weight model isn't just good enough. It's actually preferable because you can see how it works. But a brain without a memory is just a calculator. This is where the second layer comes in, the vector database. Think of tools like Milvus, Qdrant, or Weaviate. In a proprietary system, you often just dump your data into the provider's black box. In an open stack, you use a vector database to facilitate retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. This allows you to give the AI your company's specific manuals, legal documents, or code base without ever sending that sensitive data to a third party. You aren't just using AI, you're teaching your AI. The final piece of the minimum viable stack is the orchestration layer, the glue. This is where frameworks like LangChain or LlamaIndex live. They manage the flow of information, taking a user's question, searching the vector database, feeding the relevant info to the model, and returning the answer. When you build this yourself, you can swap out any piece. If a better model comes out tomorrow from a lab in Paris or Beijing, you just unplug the old one and plug in the new one. You're no longer a tenant, you're the architect. But having the blueprints is one thing. Actually building the house on your own land, introduces a set of problems that most developers haven't faced in a decade. If open source AI is so much better for sovereignty, why isn't everyone doing it? The answer is simple. It's hard. When you use a hyperscaler, they handle the ops. They manage the clusters of NVIDIA H100 GPUs, the cooling, the load balancing, and the latency. When you move to an OpenStack, that burden shifts to you. You aren't just a software developer anymore, you're an infrastructure manager. This is the birth of LLMOps. The most immediate friction is the hardware. We are currently in a global GPU famine. Finding the compute power to run a large-scale model locally or in a private cloud is both difficult and expensive. While you aren't paying a token tax, you are paying a silicon tax. You have to decide if you want to buy the hardware outright, a massive upfront capex, or rent bare metal servers, which brings you back to a monthly subscription model, albeit one with more control. Then there's the talent gap. It's relatively easy to find a developer who can write a Python script to call an API. It is significantly harder to find an engineer who understands how to quantize a model, essentially shrinking it so it fits on cheaper hardware, or how to fine-tune a model's weights without ruining its ability to speak. There is a maturity gap in the tools. We're currently in the Linux in 1995 phase of AI. It's incredibly powerful, but you have to know the magic commands to make the Wi-Fi work. However, the momentum is shifting, and the solution to this friction is already being built by the community. The most interesting development in the open source world isn't the quest for a GPT-5 killer. It's the move towards small language models, or SLMs. For a long time, we assumed that bigger was always better, that you needed hundreds of billions of parameters for an AI to be useful. But we're finding that for specific tasks, like writing SQL queries, summarizing medical charts, or routing customer support tickets, a tiny, highly optimized model like Mistral 7B or Microsoft's Phi 3 can perform just as well as the giants. This changes the math of the OpenStack entirely. A small model can run on a single, high-end consumer GPU, or even on a modern laptop. This lowers the barrier to entry from enterprise-level investment to hobbyist-level curiosity. When the hardware requirements drop, the argument for the OpenStack becomes almost undeniable. Why would you send your data across the world to a proprietary API when you can run a specialized model on a server in your own closet for pennies? We're also seeing the democratization of fine-tuning. Tools like Unsloth and Axolotl are making it possible to train these models on specialized data in hours rather than weeks. This leads us to a future where we don't have one God model that knows everything, but a mesh of small, open-source models that are experts in their specific domains. This modularity is the ultimate hedge against vendor lock-in. But for this vision to truly become the industry standard, something has to happen at the foundational level of how we deploy software. For the open source AI stack to win, it has to become invisible. Right now, it's too visible. You see the wires, you see the configurations, you see the errors. We need the Docker moment for AI. Just as Docker made it so you didn't have to worry about your server environment, we need standardized deployment templates that spin up a model, a database, and an API layer with a single command. We're seeing the beginnings of this with projects like Llama, which makes running a model as easy as installing an app. We also need to see the rise of alternative hardware. As long as NVIDIA holds a near monopoly on the chips used for AI, the OpenStack is still somewhat beholden to one company's supply chain. But with AMD entering the fray, and specialized startups like Grok building LPUs, language processing units, that are significantly faster at running these models, the infrastructure is becoming as decentralized as the software. Finally, there's the regulatory piece. Governments are currently debating how to rein in AI. Proprietary providers are often in favor of heavy regulation because they have the legal teams to navigate it, a classic regulatory moat. The open source community must advocate for the right to compute in private. If we lose the right to run our own models on our own hardware, the open source stack becomes a moot point. This is why the fight for OpenAI isn't just a technical choice. It's a political and philosophical one. It's about who gets to own the means of intellectual production in the 21st century. We often think of progress as a straight line toward more convenience, and the proprietary AI platforms are the pinnacle of convenience. But history has shown us that the most resilient systems, the ones that actually change the world, are the ones that are open. The internet didn't thrive because it was a polished product owned by a single company. It thrived because it was a messy collection of open protocols that anyone could build on. Building with an open source AI stack is undeniably harder today. It requires more thought, more engineering, and more responsibility. But it offers something that no hyperscaler can ever provide: permanence. When you build on an open stack, your solution belongs to you. It can't be turned off by a policy change in San Francisco. It won't become twice as expensive because a board of directors needs to hit their quarterly targets. It is yours. As we move deeper into this era of machine intelligence, the most successful builders won't be the ones who found the fastest API. They will be the ones who built the most robust foundations. They will be the ones who realize that in the world of AI, open isn't just a licensing preference, it's a survival strategy. We are moving away from the era of rented intelligence and into the era of sovereign thought. And the tools to build that future are already sitting on GitHub, waiting for someone to put them together. If this exploration of the plumbing behind the AI revolution changed how you think about the tools you use every day, you might find our other deep dives into the shifting landscape of technology useful. Thanks for watching.